I stare at my laptop screen, blinking repeatedly as if the numbers might magically rearrange themselves. They don't. The balance that should read $53,000, my entire college fund, my safety net, my future, glares back at me with a mocking $0. My heartbeat drums in my ears. A cold sweat breaks across my forehead as my fingers hover above the keyboard, wondering if this is some kind of technical glitch. I refresh the page. The 0 remains. No, I whisper to my empty Boston apartment. No, no, no. The UTMA account my grandparents established when I was born, the one my father Gregory has managed since I was a child, the one that was supposed to carry me through my final year of architecture school at Boston University, it's empty. My hands tremble as I grab my phone from the coffee table. Outside my window, spring sunshine bathes the city in golden light that suddenly feels like a cruel joke. I punch in the familiar Columbus area code, my father's number memorized since childhood. 1 ring. 2 rings. Milani! His voice booms through the speaker with its usual confidence. How's my college girl? I swallow hard, struggling to push words past the knot in my throat. Dad, I'm looking at my UTMA account. It's empty. A pause. Just long enough to confirm this isn't news to him. Oh, that. His tone shifts, not to guilt or remorse, but to something casual, dismissive. Yeah, I had to move some things around. Just borrowed it for a stock opportunity. Great timing, actually market's prime for investment. The room tilts slightly. I grip the edge of my desk to steady myself. You borrowed $53,000 without telling me? Listen, honey, it's not a big deal. You're smart, you'll figure it out. Take a semester off, get one of those modeling jobs they're always offering you. You don't need to worry about this. The dismissal in his voice ignites something inside me, burning through the shock. That money was for my education, I say, my voice unrecognizable even to myself. Grandma and Grandpa set it up specifically for college. You can't just take it. Milani, he sighs, as if I'm a child who doesn't understand basic arithmetic. Family helps family. This is a fantastic opportunity that will benefit all of us. I close my eyes, suddenly seeing with perfect clarity the neighborhood barbecues, where my father held court, our modest colonial home in Columbus, that he took credit for maintaining. In reality, it was my mother Helen who preserved our respectable facade, working herself to exhaustion with double shifts days as a cashier at Robertson's Grocery, nights waiting tables at Finley's Diner. All while Gregory Wilson played the role of devoted family man, community leader, PTA treasurer. The role. It was always just a role. Dad, I need that money back. Now. I have tuition due in 3 weeks. Don't be so dramatic, he snaps, his patience clearly wearing thin. You're 24 years old. Time to stand on your own 2 feet instead of expecting handouts. My laugh sounds hollow. Handouts? That was my money. Legally, my money. Look, I've got a meeting. We'll talk later. The line goes dead. I stare at my phone in disbelief, my hand trembling so violently now that I nearly drop it. I take 3 deep breaths before calling him back. He answers on the 4th ring, annoyance evident. What, Milani? You need to put that money back. Today. My voice sounds stronger now, fueled by rising anger. Family matters more than money, he replies, his tone hardening. Maybe it's time you quit wasting your time with school anyway. With your looks, you could be making real money modeling. Use what God gave you instead of racking up more student debt. The suggestion lands like a slap. 4 years of architectural studies, Dean's List achievements, a portfolio that already impressed 2 firms reduced to how I might look in front of a camera. I'm not quitting school, I tell him, tears threatening but held firmly in check. And I'm not using my looks instead of my brain. I need my money back. I'm hanging up now, he says coldly. Call me when you're thinking more clearly about what's important. The line goes silent again. This time, I don't call back. Instead, I open my banking app and request all statements from the past year. Within minutes, they load on my screen, and the systematic betrayal reveals itself in black and white. January 3. Withdrawal. $2,500. January 17. Withdrawal. $3,000. February 2. Withdrawal. $2,500. The pattern continues, small enough withdrawals to avoid triggering alerts, spaced carefully over 8 weeks. Calculated, deliberate. The final withdrawal, $3,000 on March 28, emptied the account completely. My research takes me deeper, to financial websites explaining UTMA accounts. The uniform transfers to Minors Act funds should have transferred completely to my control at age 21. For 3 years, he's maintained illegal access, feeding me the story that his name needed to remain on the account for tax purposes. The room feels suddenly smaller, the walls closing in as I recognize the magnitude of his deception. The man who lectured me about responsibility and integrity since childhood had been systematically stealing from me, his own daughter. The trust between us, already fragile from years of broken promises, doesn't just crack, it shatters completely. I wipe a single tear from my cheek and open my laptop again. This betrayal cannot stand. Not anymore. I have final exams in 2 weeks, an internship interview the week after, and absolutely no safety net. But I have something my father clearly doesn't count on: the truth, documented in black and white, and a determination that suddenly burns hotter than any fear. Have you ever discovered someone you trusted completely was deceiving you? How did your body react in that moment? The next day, the bus from Boston to Columbus takes nearly 15 hours. I spend most of it staring at farmland in small towns through a smudged window, rehearsing conversations in my head that I doubt will ever happen. What do you say to a father who stole your future? I arrive at the Greyhound station just after 6 in the evening. No one's waiting for me. I didn't tell them exactly when I'd arrive, partly because bus schedules are unreliable, but mostly because I wanted these first hours back in Columbus to be mine alone. The familiar weight of Ohio's summer humidity wraps around me as I walk the 12 blocks to our modest colonial in Bexley. Each step feels heavier than the last. My phone buzzes with a text from Mom. Dinner at 7. Your favorite lasagna. The house looks smaller somehow. The blue shutters faded from years of harsh Midwestern weather. I pause at the end of our concrete walkway, studying the trimmed hedges and the ceramic birdbath Mom bought at a garage sale 10 years ago. The perfect picture of middle-class respectability. What a lie. Dad's silver Buick sits in the driveway, gleaming under the early evening Sunday. He must have washed it this weekend, always keeping up appearances. Mom answers the door before I can use my key, pulling me into a hug that smells like tomato sauce and the lavender lotion she's used since I was little. There's my college girl, she says, her smile genuine but her eyes tired. So tired. She's coming off a morning shift at Robertson's, and I know she'll be heading to Finley's diner by 9 tonight. Your father's in the dining room setting the table. I force a smile. Great. Dad stands taller when I enter, his arms outstretched for a hug I reluctantly step into. Milani, look at you, Boston's turned you into a real sophisticated lady. I pull away quickly. It's only been a semester since Christmas, Dad. Well, you look different. He gestures to the table where 3 plates await. Your mother's outdone herself with dinner. 1. I watch him carefully, searching for signs of guilt or shame. There aren't any. Instead, he pulls out my chair with a flourish, just like he's done since I was old enough to sit at the adult table. The perfect father act. During dinner, Mom asks about finals and my internship interview. I answer mechanically while studying Dad as he cuts his lasagna into precise squares, occasionally dabbing his mouth with a napkin. He looks exactly the same, confident, collected. The respected office administrator, PTA treasurer, neighborhood barbecue host. Financial responsibility is what separates successful people from failures, he announces halfway through dinner, unprompted. I was just telling your mother, with inflation these days, you need to be extra careful with your money. The lasagna turns to ash in my mouth. I set my fork down carefully. Is that right? I manage. Absolutely. I've been reading about sound investment strategies. The key is knowing when to seize opportunities. Mom nods, too exhausted to recognize the irony. I bite my tongue until I taste blood. After dinner, Dad announces he has a work meeting and disappears. Mom loads the dishwasher despite my protests that she should rest before her next shift. I'll just lie down for an hour, she promises, her shoulders slumped with fatigue. There's pie in the fridge if you want dessert later. Once she's upstairs, I wait 15 minutes, listening to the house settle around me. Then I move silently to Dad's office off the living room. The door isn't locked, why would it be? In this house, Dad's word has always been law. His space is respected without question. Until now. The room smells of his sandalwood aftershave. A Columbus Dispatch lies folded on his desk next to a mug that reads, World's Greatest Dad. I start with the desk drawers, finding nothing but office supplies and old checkbooks. The file cabinet reveals tax returns, warranty information, and insurance policies all meticulously organized. I'm beginning to think I've made a mistake when I spot his navy jacket hanging on the back of the door. My fingers shake slightly as I reach into the pockets. Right pocket, car keys, a half roll of mints. Left pocket, folded paper, several slips. My heart pounds as I flatten them on the desk. Casino chip receipts from River West Casino. One for $500, another for $1,000, a third for $2,500. All dated within the past month. The truth hits me like a physical blow. He didn't invest my college fund in stocks. He gambled it away. I sink into his desk chair, documents spread before me. With newfound determination, I turn to his computer. The password takes 3 tries: my birth date, Mom's birth date, finally their anniversary, and I'm in. His browser history has been cleared, but his email remains logged in. I search for River West and find promotional offers, VIP invitations, special events. Dozens of them, going back months. The printer in the corner whirs to life as I print select emails. Then I find his credit card statement in a folder marked Finances Personal. My hands grow cold as I scan the transactions. ATM withdrawal, River West Casino, $300. ATM withdrawal, River West Casino, $500. ATM withdrawal, River West Casino, $750. The pattern stretches back page after page. I print these too. In his wallet, tucked in a hidden compartment behind his driver's license, I find a plastic card with gold lettering. River West Casino, Diamond Club member, the highest tier of their loyalty program. The sound of footsteps on the stairs sends me into frantic motion. I slip everything back where I found it, except for the papers I've printed, which I fold and tuck into my pocket. I've just closed the browser window when Mom appears in the doorway. "Thought you might like some tea," she says, holding out a steaming mug. Her hands are red and cracked around the knuckles, the nails cut short for practical reasons. Working hands. Honest hands. Thanks, Mom. I take the mug, guilt and rage warring inside me. Everything okay? You've seemed quiet tonight. I force a smile. Just tired from the trip. She nods, accepting this simple explanation, because that's who she is trusting, never looking for deception. I should start getting ready for my shift. The front door opens before she can leave, and Dad's voice booms through the house. "Helen? Is there any of that lasagna left?" "In the fridge, Gregory," she calls back. He appears in the doorway moments later, stopping short when he sees me at his desk. His eyes narrow slightly, then reset to their normal jovial expression. "Studying in my office? The lighting's better in here than the living room, isn't it?" "I was just checking email," I lie, watching his face carefully. His eyes flick to the computer screen, then to the desk surface. "Find everything you need?" "Actually, yes." I hold his gaze. I found exactly what I was looking for. Something shifts in his expression, so subtle an observer less motivated than me might miss it. Wariness, calculation. "Good to hear," he says, his voice carefully casual. He turns to Mom. "You heading to work soon? Want me to warm up the car?" "I've got time," she says. "Milani and I were just chatting." Dad's phone buzzes. He glances at it, then back at us. "I need to take this. Work stuff." He steps into the hallway, closing the door behind him. Mom sighs. "Always working, that one. I don't know how he keeps up the pace." I take a sip of tea to keep from telling her exactly how he spends his working hours. Not yet. Not until I'm sure. When she leaves to change for her shift, I pull out my phone and text Aunt Alicia. "Need to talk. Legal question. Can you video call tomorrow at 2? Her response comes quickly. "Of course. Everything okay?" I stare at the cracked ceiling of my childhood bedroom, the weight of those casino receipts burning in my pocket. "No," I text back. "But it will be." Later that night, I'm reading in bed when Dad knocks on my door. Without waiting for an answer, he pushes it open, leaning against the frame with arms crossed. "I noticed you were in my office earlier," he says, voice low, looking through my things. I set my book down. I found the casino receipts. A flash of anger crosses his face before he composes himself. "Those weren't mine. I was holding them for a coworker." "Really? And the Diamond Club membership card? The ATM withdrawals? The VIP emails? All for a coworker?" "You had no right to go through my personal items," he snaps, defensive now. What I do with my money is my business. It wasn't your money, I say, voice shaking with rage. It was mine. My college fund that Grandma and Grandpa set up. The one you emptied for your gambling addiction. Keep your voice down, he hisses, glancing toward the hallway. Your mother doesn't need to hear your wild accusations. Wild accusations? I have proof, Dad. Printed copies of everything. Something dangerous flickers in his eyes. You're making a mistake, Milani. No, I reply, my voice steady now. The mistake was trusting you with my future. He stares at me for a long moment, then leaves without another word, closing the door firmly behind him. I wait until his footsteps fade before pulling out my phone again. I text Aunt Alicia. Change of plans. Need to make it a 3-way call with Mom, and I need you to bring everything you know about UTMA laws. I spend the night organizing the evidence into a clear timeline. The betrayal, the systematic theft, the deliberate deception. Tomorrow, the 3 of us will talk, and my father's years of lies will finally come to light. Would you confront a family member who stole from you? Or try to preserve family peace? What would be at stake for you? 2 days later, the fluorescent lights of Aunt Alicia's law office cast harsh shadows across stacks of documents. Her normally tidy desk had transformed into command central, legal pads covered with notes, tabs marking critical pages in financial records. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, punctuating each sentence with a forceful tap. The custodial breach is clear-cut, she muttered, not looking up as I entered with 2 coffee cups. What Gregory did wasn't just morally wrong, it was illegal. I set her coffee beside her keyboard, black with 1 sugar, just as she'd taken it since law school. The scent of fresh coffee mingled with the sterile office air. Through the window behind her, Columbus stretched gray and overcast, matching my mood. Will it hold up? I asked, my voice steadier than the trembling cup in my hand. Dad's always been good at talking his way out of trouble. Alicia finally looked up, her eyes so much like my mother's narrowing with determination. Charm doesn't work in court documentation, honey. Numbers tell the truth when people won't. She swiveled her monitor to show me a formal letter, the language cold and precise. The words, demand for immediate restitution and breach of fiduciary duty jumped from the page. This goes out today. Certified mail. She handed me a copy. No more talking, no more chances. We've moved beyond that. I nodded, running my finger along the edge of the paper. How's Mom doing with her attorney? Linda's the best divorce lawyer in the state. Your mother brought 20 years of financial records. A small, fierce smile crossed Alicia's face. Helen Wilson may have been quiet all these years, but she kept receipts, literal and figurative. That evening, Alicia's kitchen transformed into our war room. The oak table where I'd eaten countless holiday dinners now held legal documents, bank statements, and 3 mugs of tea. Mom sat across from me, her waitress uniform exchanged for a simple blouse, her hands finally still after a day without serving others. I found these in the attic, Mom said, pushing a shoebox toward me. Inside were faded bank statements from before I was born. Your father's gambling isn't new. I thought he'd stopped when we had you. Aunt Alicia spread the papers in chronological order. This establishes pattern. It matters. It matters. I watched my mother's face, the resignation there slowly hardening into something else, determination maybe. Or anger finally allowed to surface after years of suppression. I worked double shifts for 20 years. Mom said quietly, I thought I was helping build something. Our home, your education. Her voice caught. All while he was. She didn't finish. Alicia reached across the table, covering Mom's hand with hers. Being family doesn't mean escaping accountability. Mom nodded, shoulders straightening. No, it doesn't. 2 days later, Dad received Aunt Alicia's letter at Midwest Insurance Associates, where he'd managed the office for 15 years. I wasn't there to see his face, but his reaction arrived in my voicemail within hours. Milani, this is ridiculous. His voice sounded strained, none of the usual confidence. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Call me. We need to talk about this legal nonsense. I didn't call back. The next message came that night. This is your father. I raised you better than this. I only borrowed that money for our family. Everything I've ever done was for this family. Call me. The third message arrived at midnight, his voice slurred and angry. You think you can threaten me? With lawyers? I'm your father. I changed your diapers. I drove you to school. I supported your ridiculous architecture dreams when you could have done something practical. This is how you repay me? By humiliating me? I played the messages for Mom and Alicia the next morning. Mom's face paled, then flushed with anger. Those dreams weren't ridiculous, she said. You were drawing buildings before you could write your name. That afternoon, my phone rang with cousin Margot's number. Your dad called us, she said without preamble. He says you're trying to ruin him over some misunderstanding about college money. What did you tell him? I asked, pulse quickening. That he should pay you back what he took. Margot's voice hardened. Then he said you were being dramatic and ungrateful, that you've always been his difficult child. That's when I hit record on my phone. The recording she sent captured my father's desperate lies, each one more elaborate than the last. How I'd agreed to the loan. How I'd spent the money myself and was blaming him. How my mother had mental problems and couldn't be trusted. That night, Mom called me after her shift at Finley's diner. Her voice sounded strange, hollow yet somehow stronger. I broke down tonight, she said, right in the middle of serving table 12 their meatloaf special. Mom, I'm so sorry. Don't be. Something had changed in her voice. Brenda from the kitchen sat me down in the break room, then Loretta joined us, then Mike from the grill. I pictured the diner staff, the people who'd watched me grow up during visits to Mom's workplace, surrounding her with support. They've seen it all these years. Mom continued. How tired I was. How your father never came to my workplace events, but expected me at all of his. How he'd drop by to borrow cash from my tips. I heard a soft tinkling sound through the phone. What was that? I asked. My wedding ring. I just took it off. The barest hint of wonder colored her voice. 26 years, and it slides right off like it was never meant to stay. I pressed my hand against my mouth, tears threatening. I'm wiping tables right now. She continued matter-of-factly, with bare hands. Do you know how strange that feels? Like I've been wearing invisible gloves all these years. The next morning, Dad found himself locked out of the family home. Mom had changed the locks overnight with help from Mike from the diner. His key cards to their joint accounts no longer worked. Alicia had made sure of that as soon as the demand letter went out. He's been calling neighbors. Mom told me during our morning check-in, telling them I'm having a breakdown, that you've turned against him. Does anyone believe him? Martha next door told him she'd seen his car at River West Casino enough times to know who was having problems. Mom's laugh held no humor. People aren't as blind as we think. Dad's carefully constructed image was crumbling. The PTA treasurer who'd given stern lectures about fiscal responsibility. The neighborhood barbecue host who'd complained about those people who can't manage money. The father who'd taught me to balance a checkbook at 12. All while systematically stealing from his own daughter's future. You're going back to Boston tomorrow. Aunt Alicia told me that evening, passing me a printout of my flight confirmation. I'll handle things here. But the legal proceedings will take months. You need to focus on finishing your degree. Her expression softened slightly. That's the best revenge, you know. Succeeding despite him. I looked at the flight information, then at my mother sitting quietly at the kitchen table, her bare ring finger occasionally touched by her opposite hand, as if confirming its freedom. I can't afford to finish without that money, I said. You'll get it back, Alicia said, the same iron certainty in her voice that had won her countless cases. Every penny, plus interest. I've already filed the emergency injunction. Mom looked up. And I'm selling the dining room set. Your father insisted we couldn't live without. It should cover your books for next semester. Mom looked up the dining room. I stared at these two women, their faces so similar yet marked by different lives, one who'd fought openly, one who'd endured quietly, both now refusing to bend. Something unfamiliar unfurled in my chest. Not just determination, I'd always had that. This was bigger. The certainty that came from knowing I wasn't fighting alone. Okay, I said, straightening my shoulders. I'll finish my degree, and Dad will face consequences for once in his life. Mom nodded, a single tear tracking down her cheek. Some things matter more than peace, honey. Some fights are worth having. Outside, Columbus prepared for evening, streetlights flickering to life one by one. Tomorrow I'd be back in Boston, back to models and blueprints and the future I refused to surrender. Behind me would be these women, my real foundation, stronger than any architecture I'd ever design. A month later, the Ohio courthouse looms before me, all sandstone and solemnity. My fingers tremble slightly as I smooth my charcoal pencil skirt, professional armor against the betrayal awaiting inside. Aunt Alicia walks beside me, briefcase swinging with purposeful rhythm, her heels clicking a confident beat against the marble steps. "Ready?" she asks, her hand warm on my shoulder. I nod, not trusting my voice. Through the heavy wooden doors, past security, down a corridor that smells of furniture, polish, and faded dreams, I spot him immediately. Dad sits with his attorney, head bent in conversation. He wears his Sunday suit, the one reserved for impressing people, and his practiced expression of concerned fatherhood. The mask I once believed without question. Our eyes lock across the room, his flash with momentary panic before settling into righteous indignation. All rise. The bailiff calls, and we stand as Judge Harriman enters, her silver hair cut in a practical bob, reading glasses perched on her nose. "Wilson versus Wilson," she announces, scanning the documents before her. "Custodial account dispute." Dad's attorney speaks first. Mr. Bentley, silver-haired and silver-tongued, rises with theatrical gravity. "Your Honor, this is merely a family misunderstanding," he begins, voice dripping with reasonableness. "My client was acting in what he believed to be the family's best interest during a temporary financial challenge." I swallow hard, tasting bitterness. The word temporary hangs in the air like poison. Aunt Alicia stands, her voice cool and precise. "Your Honor, this was no misunderstanding. We have evidence of systematic withdrawal over an 8-week period, totaling exactly $53,000. This represents clear breach of fiduciary duty under the Uniform Transfers to Minors Act." She methodically presents our documentation: bank statements, text messages, recorded phone conversations where Dad admits taking the money. With each piece of evidence, Judge Harriman's expression hardens. "Mr. Wilson," she finally says, peering over her glasses at my father, "these withdrawals appear deliberate and calculated. What explanation do you offer the court?" Dad rises, straightening his tie. The gesture so familiar it makes my chest ache despite everything. "Your Honor, I've always put family first," he begins, voice steady with practiced sincerity. "This money was going to be invested for Milani's future, a better return than just sitting in an account." "And where are these investments now, Mr. Wilson?" Judge Harriman asks. Dad shifts his weight. "There were some unexpected market fluctuations." The judge's eyebrow arches. "I see." An hour later, we sit in the settlement conference room. A court mediator presides over our small group, Dad and his attorney on one side, Aunt Alicia and me on the other. "No friendly family dinner this. I can offer $15,000 now," Dad says, leaning forward. "The rest in installments over 5 years. Aunt Alicia doesn't even glance at me before responding. "Full repayment plus 5% interest. Non-negotiable." Dad's face flushes. "That's unreasonable. I don't have that kind of money." "Then, wage garnishment is the alternative," the mediator explains, her tone neutral but firm. "Federal law permits garnishment of up to 25% of disposable earnings until the debt is satisfied." "You'll ruin me financially," Dad says, looking directly at me for the first time. His eyes hold genuine fear. The words rise from somewhere deep inside me, quiet but unwavering. "Like you tried to ruin my future?" He flinches as if I'd slapped him. Later that afternoon, we attend the preliminary hearing for Mom's divorce case, held in the same courthouse but a different courtroom. Dad's face has lost its confident glow, replaced by a grayish pallor as Mom's attorney presents evidence of mortgage fraud and credit cards opened in her name without consent. Mrs. Wilson worked 2 jobs believing her income was supporting her daughter's education, the attorney states. Instead, Mr. Wilson was systematically diverting funds to gambling activities while creating unauthorized debt in his wife's name. Dad's desperate response, "Helen knew everything," falls flat, as Mom's attorney presents years of falsified financial statements. The judge doesn't bother hiding his disgust. This court finds clear evidence of financial misconduct. Mom sits 3 seats away from me, her hands folded neatly in her lap. When the judge announces his finding, her shoulders drop slightly, as if releasing a burden carried too long. Back in the first courtroom, Judge Harriman approves our settlement terms with brisk efficiency. Full repayment of $53,000 plus 5% interest. Direct wage assignment from Dad's paycheck. Federal garnishment of 25% of his disposable income until the debt is paid. The court finds the defendant in clear breach of fiduciary duty. She states, "This settlement represents the minimum consequence for such violation of trust." I watch Dad's face as reality crashes through his carefully constructed defenses. His mouth opens slightly, eyes widening with genuine shock. He truly believed he would escape consequences. That his charm would save him, as it always had before. Outside on the courthouse steps, spring sunshine warms my face, but brings no joy. I've won, but victory tastes hollow. Aunt Alicia squeezes my hand. You did the right thing, she says quietly. I nod, watching Dad emerge from the building, shoulders hunched, attorney whispering urgently beside him. He looks older suddenly, diminished. I know, I reply, turning away. But doing the right thing still hurts. What price would you put on trust and honesty in your family? Is there a dollar amount that's too small to fight for when principles are at stake? 4 crimson tickets lie flat on my kitchen table, each representing a seat at tomorrow's Boston University Architecture School graduation. I run my finger along the embossed university seal, feeling the weight of my decision with each pass. 4 tickets, I whisper to my empty apartment. The late afternoon sun filters through my blinds, casting stripes across the neatly arranged rectangles. I've already decided who deserves to witness this moment. I fought so hard to reach. Mom, Aunt Alicia, and my 2 closest friends, Sophia and Trevor. Not Gregory Wilson. Not the man who almost destroyed this future. My phone buzzes with an incoming text. Dad's name appears on the screen. His 5th message today. When should I book my flight? Need to request time off work. The casual presumption in his words ignites a familiar heat in my chest. I take a deep breath and type my response. I only have 4 tickets. I've allocated them to Mom, Aunt Alicia, Sophia, and Trevor. I won't be able to accommodate you at the ceremony. His response comes almost instantly. This is ridiculous. I'm your father. Of course I'll be there. I place my phone screen down on the table, my hand trembling slightly. 6 months since the court order. 6 months of wage garnishment payments trickling into my account. 6 months of his alternating guilt trips and demands for gratitude because he's making things right. My phone lights up again with multiple messages. You wouldn't even have a graduation without me. I worked for years to support your education. What will people think when your father isn't there? The last one almost makes me laugh. What would people think if they knew the truth? That he gambled away my college fund? That a court had to force him to repay what he stole? I silence my phone and return to packing my graduation cap and gown. The morning of graduation dawns bright and clear. Boston sparkles beneath an impossibly blue May sky as Mom and Aunt Alicia arrive at my apartment with coffee and pastries. Oh honey, look at you, Mom says, her eyes already welling with tears. She looks different now, lighter somehow, despite the new wrinkles around her eyes. The divorce proceedings finished last month, and freedom suits her. Stop it, Helen, you'll make your makeup run before we even get to the ceremony. Aunt Alicia says, but her voice is gentle. She hands me a garment bag. Your robe might wrinkle if you carry it. Let me hang this up for you. In the hotel room, Mom sits me down at the vanity mirror. From her purse, she removes a small velvet box. This was your grandmother's, she says, opening it to reveal a delicate silver pendant shaped like an architect's compass. She wore it when she worked as a draftsman in the 60s. Not many women did that work back then. I touch the pendant gently. I didn't know she was in architecture. She wasn't allowed to advance, Mom says, clasping it around my neck. But she would be so proud of where you've gone with your talent. The pendant rests cool against my skin as tears threaten. I stand and hug her tightly. Thank you for everything. I whisper against her hair, breathing in her familiar scent of grocery store hand lotion and coffee. You did this yourself, she says firmly, despite everything. A knock at the door announces Sophia and Trevor, arms loaded with flowers and a handmade banner that reads, Milani Wilson, Architect Extraordinaire. The procession of graduates feels surreal. Hundreds of us in identical robes and mortarboards, marching across the quad toward the ceremony pavilion. Parents and friends line the walkways, snapping photos and waving. I scan the crowd, spotting Mom, Aunt Alicia, Sophia, and Trevor in their designated seats, their faces beaming with genuine pride. Then I see him. Gregory Wilson stands at the entrance to the seating area, his face tense with determination. He wears a new suit probably bought for the occasion, and holds a bouquet of roses so large it looks absurd in his hands. My step falters momentarily, but the procession keeps moving, carrying me forward. I watch in horror as he pushes toward the student seating section, ignoring the usher asking to see his ticket. "That's my daughter," he announces loudly, pointing toward me. "Milani Wilson. She only made it because of my sacrifices." Heads turn. Whispers ripple through the crowd. My face burns with embarrassment as I continue the procession, unable to stop or hide. "Sir, you need a ticket," I hear the usher saying firmly. "I'm her father." Gregory's voice rises above the murmur of the crowd. "I deserve to be here. I paid for all this." From my position in line, I see Aunt Alicia rise from her seat, her attorney's poise evident even from this distance. She intercepts Gregory in the aisle with remarkable speed. "You don't have a ticket," she says, her voice calm but carrying clearly. "You don't belong here." "Get out of my way, Alicia," Gregory hisses, loud enough for nearby rows to hear. "I deserve the front row as her proud father." "No," Aunt Alicia stands firm. "You were expressly not invited." Two security officers approach, their manner professional but uncompromising. "Sir," the taller one says, "we need to see your ticket, or we'll have to ask you to leave." "This is ridiculous." Gregory's voice rises further, drawing more attention. "That's my daughter. I'm entitled to see her graduate." "Sir," the officer repeats, "leave now or we'll escort you out." "Do you know who I am?" Gregory demands, his face reddening. "I'm Gregory Wilson. I've sacrificed everything for that girl. Without me, she wouldn't even be here." The security officers exchange a glance, then each takes one of Gregory's arms. "No, this is outrageous." He struggles against their grip. "Milani, tell them who I am. Tell them I'm your father." I stand frozen in line, mortified as hundreds of eyes swing between the commotion and me. My classmates shuffle uncomfortably. One friend squeezes my elbow in silent support. Security begins physically moving Gregory toward the exit. He continues shouting about his rights as a parent, his voice growing more desperate with each step. "You can't do this to me. I'm her father. I've done everything for her." As they finally remove him from the pavilion, an unexpected sensation washes over me. Not the crushing embarrassment I anticipated, but something lighter. Relief. The truth of our relationship laid bare for all to witness. No more pretense, no more masks. I catch my mother's eye across the crowd. Her face shows concern, but when I give her a small nod, she visibly relaxes. Aunt Alicia returns to her seat, smoothing her skirt with steady hands that betray no tremor of distress. The ceremony continues. When they call my name, I walk across the stage with my head high, accepting my diploma as cheers erupt from my 4 true supporters. For the first time, I realize that family isn't defined by obligation or blood. It's built through honesty, respect, and showing up when it matters. The 4 people who earned those tickets understand that. And in this moment of triumph, my name echoing across the loudspeakers, my hard-earned degree in hand, I finally understand it too. Have you ever had to establish a boundary with a loved one who betrayed you? How did it feel in that moment? A month later, the candlelight flickers across the faces of my dinner companions at Luciano's, one of Boston's hidden culinary gems. My mother Helen's tired eyes now sparkle with newfound vitality. Aunt Alicia raises her glass of Pinot Noir, her attorney persona softened by genuine pride. "To Milani," she announces, her voice carrying over the restaurant's gentle hum, "who didn't just earn her architecture degree, she fought for her future and won." My 2 closest friends, Jenna and Taylor, clink their glasses against mine. Their unwavering support carried me through those desperate nights when I questioned whether I'd make it to this moment. "I never doubted you," Mom says, reaching across to squeeze my hand. "Not for 1 second." The truth hangs unspoken between us how different this celebration is from the elaborate parties my father would orchestrate, events designed to showcase his generosity rather than my accomplishments. Those gatherings were never about me. "I have something to say," I announce, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. I raise my glass toward the circle of women who formed my safety net when everything collapsed. Without you, I might have given up. You didn't just help me recover what was taken. You showed me what real support looks like. The moisture in Mom's eyes catches the light as she smiles. Jenna leans forward, her architectural portfolio peeking from her bag. "Speaking of real support, tell them about Westfield and Reed." I feel warmth spread across my cheeks. "I accepted their offer yesterday. Junior designer. Starting next month." The table erupts in cheers loud enough to draw glances from nearby diners. And I continue once the celebration quiets. I signed a lease on that apartment near the Commons, the one with the breakfast nook perfect for drafting. My mother's expression shifts subtly. Is it affordable? Every penny is mine, I assure her. My salary covers it comfortably. What I don't mention is how I've calculated the budget down to the dollar, factoring in the garnished payments from Gregory's wages that have begun appearing in my account. The first one arrived yesterday, $1,273.62, with a cold transaction number where a father's love should be. Your turn, Mom. I say, deflecting attention. Tell them about your new place. She straightens. A quiet confidence, replacing the exhaustion that once seemed permanent. Just a small apartment near Robertson's, but the windows face east. Morning sunshine, her voice strengthens. And one job now, just one. The divorce papers were finalized Tuesday, Aunt Alicia adds, lifting her glass again. To new beginnings for both Wilson women. Sunday morning arrives with gentle spring sunshine streaming through my windows. The phone rings, and Mom's name lights up my screen. Just checking in, she says, her voice carrying a lightness I'm still getting used to. Our conversation meanders comfortably until she falls quiet for a moment. I should have seen the signs years ago, Milani. Her voice drops to nearly a whisper. All those late nights he claimed were work meetings. He fooled us both, Mom, I interrupt gently. Remember when he convinced us he needed that new leather briefcase for client meetings? And we found it stuffed with candy wrappers in the garage 3 months later. She finishes, a small laugh escaping her. The sound of her laughter heals something in me I hadn't realized was still broken. Later, I walk through Boston Common, my steps light despite the weight of everything behind me. Students sprawl across the grass, textbooks open to catch the spring sunshine. A young woman struggles ahead of me, arms wrapped around a stack of architecture textbooks that threatens to topple. I quicken my pace, catching a heavy volume as it slides from her grip. Structural Engineering Principles. I read from the cover, smiling. Second year? She nods gratefully. These weigh a ton. Mind if I help? I'm headed this direction anyway. As we walk, I see myself in her determined expression. That evening, I sit at my small desk, confirmation email open on my laptop. My new savings account with its triple verification security measures stares back at me. I transfer my first deposit, watching the numbers climb from 0 each digit representing security I've built for myself. My phone buzzes with a text. Gregory's name appears with the first line visible. Milani, you need to reconsider this whole legal. I swipe it away without reading further, turning instead to the design sketches for my first professional project. He thought stealing my money would steal my future. Instead, his betrayal made me stronger.